The federal government of Nigeria approves compensation for communities affected by the Nigerian power project.
Electricity employees suspend nationwide strike.
As political activities intensify, ruling APC confirms no plan to remove its chairman.
Good morning, Nigeria. Today, our focus is on resolving conflict in political parties.
Now, the current crisis in several political parties in Nigeria is eliciting anxiety across the country, with many wondering when the embers of the flame will finally die out.
Exactly, Nadabo, though campaigns for the 2023 elections are just over a month away, precisely on the 28th of September, the level of disarray in the internal issues in many political parties is becoming quite alarming.
Yeah, and then we are witnessing several factions being formed in many political parties, as well as litigations between members of these political parties, among other things.
And all these are rising concerns on the way campaigns by political parties will go this year. There is also uncertainty over the team or national leaders that will lead campaigns in the coming months in several political parties.
Now, analysts are pointing at the conduct of the last party primaries as the reason for the current challenges. They believe the alleged financial inducements of delegates during the primaries and other internal anomalies are directly responsible for the magnitude of the current crisis.
So the question is, many are asking, is if the upcoming campaigns will take place without rancor, though others believe that Nigeria is known for these tensions prior to campaign seasons, but agree that the current state of affairs seems more intense and worrisome than what was witnessed in past pre-campaign seasons.
Now, against this background, will the long-awaited campaigns for the 2023 general elections be peaceful? And how best can these internal crises in political parties be managed and resolved in the interest of the country? These issues inform our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today. Welcome to the program. I'm Yusuf Nadabu Usman. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm Juma Yusuf. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. We're reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. We shall also serve our complimentary segments in the course of the program. For now, here is the morning news with Anne Juvenal. Good morning, Anne.
Good morning, Janae and Yusuf. Good morning, Nigeria has the news. Obstacles to the construction of the 700 megawatt Zungeru hydroelectric power project may have been dismantled following the approval of additional 2.7 billion naira by the Federal Executive Council for the compensation and resettlement of the affected communities. The Minister of Power, Abubakar Aliyu, announced this while briefing journalists after the council's meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari.
The council graciously approved 2,740 million naira for the updated rates of building structures of compensation and resettlement of the communities affected by the construction of Zungero hydroelectric power project, which will revise the subsisting amount from 19 billion 640 million naira to 22 billion 380 million naira.
The Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, has intervened in the strike embarked upon by the National Union of Electricity Employees following an emergency meeting between the union, government and other stakeholders.
Overall, in a successful meeting, and we agreed with my comrade brothers that the disputes should end, and should end today, not only because of this meeting, but because of the fact that the Ministry of Labour has apprehended the dispute in concern with the trade dispute.
Some of the issues here have been pending for 10 years, 9 years, 3 years, and there should be an end to even conciliation.
At the end of the meeting, the Secretary General of the Union, Joe Ajaero, assured the Minister that all necessary steps would be taken to restore the supply of electricity to the country immediately. Nigerian Governors Forum is objecting, or the Nigerian governors are objecting to the position taken by the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, on the issue relating to the payment of consultancy fees on the Paris Club loan. The governors at the end of their meeting, held at the conference center of the presidential villa in Abuja, say they are ready to take every legal means to resist the payment of the consultancy fees relating to the Paris Club loan.
The forum launched a primary healthcare leadership challenge, a flagship program to revamp the primary healthcare under one roof policy in the country by maximizing the commitment of state governors to primary healthcare under one roof, a state charter on state fiscal transparency, accountability, and sustainability program for results, SIFTAS, was also launched by the forum, and we reject all of the claims that he has made on this issue. We will take every constitutional and legal means to ensure that these purported consultancies are fully litigated upon by the highest court in the land.
The All Progressives Congress APC has described as baseless reports in some section of the media about plans to remove its national chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, from office. APC's National Publicity Secretary, Felix Morka, says that the party and its leaders are currently focused on the important task of building a strong and vibrant electoral campaign ahead of the elections and will not be distracted by boring chips of idle speculators. The National Working Committee of the APC said remains united on the Abdullahi Adamu's leadership as national chairman, with a singular commitment to winning the next general election. The Ebonyi State Police Command says it has successfully repelled attack by unknown gunmen on one of the checkpoints in Abakaliki in the state capital. The State Police Public Relations Officer, SP Chris Anyanwu, while confirming the development, said the unknown gunmen on motorcycles stormed the popular G Hostel checkpoint and immediately opened fire on the officers on duty, who gallantly repelled the attackers, killing one of them, while others fled with various degrees of injuries. However, Chris Anyanwu said that 2 officers who were wounded during the gun duel with the hoodlums are responding to treatment at the hospital. Items recovered from the attackers include charms hid in a Bible, machete, 1 AK-47 pistol, among others. Now, the FCT Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mohammed Musa Bello, has appealed to the United Nations Foundation to assist in tackling the menace of malaria in the country. The minister made the appeal while receiving an audience, a delegation from the UN's Foundation's Global Immunization on a learning trip to Nigeria.
When you fight diseases like polio, it's very important to appreciate that all these factors come to play. But I think the most important one is the driving force from the human angle. For instance, from your own country, philanthropists decided to be in the forefront and were able to commit resources.
We would like to know how Nigeria has used U.S. government investment in polio, but also to strengthen some other area like immunization. As you know, on our minister, there is a new global strategy for polio eradication.
Well, that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Jume and Yusuf after the break.
You're welcome back, and this is Good Morning Nigeria. Director General World Trade Organization Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala seeks solidarity among nations to tackle multiple challenges through coordinated trade. Let's now join Kunle Adeye for details.
The war between Russia and Ukraine has complicated the delicate global economy, which is just coming out of the woods following the outbreak of COVID-19. Speaking on the trade outcomes of Davos, Dr. Iweala said trade is the solution to the health, climate, food, and security crises in the world. Other speakers also emphasized that the crises have led to low recovery, while countries like the United States of America and the United Kingdom are experiencing the highest inflation rate in the last 40 years.
All happening at the same time. And the question we ask ourselves is how can trade contribute to solving this crisis, and how can trade be part of the solution to what I see as challenges of the global commons. If you look at these crises, what they tend to have in common is that no one country can solve them by themselves. It needs global solidarity to make it work. And the WTO is part of the multilateral institutions created to try and help solve problems. So, and trade has been instrumental in last, as we thought we were rebounding after the crux of the pandemic seemed to be passing in many countries. Trade in 2021, the volume of merchandise trade grew at almost 10%.
They unanimously agreed that looking at tariff is one of the remedies. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeye.
Well, many thanks, Kunle, for the business package. Coming up next on Good Morning Nigeria is the newspaper review.
And our newspaper reviewer, Baya Toby, is in the studio. Good morning, Baya.
Good morning, Jume. Good morning, Yusuf.
Good morning, Baya. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have quite some papers here. Let me begin with the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And above the mark's head, we have Olufasan. Isn't it time, in the interest of equity, fairness, justice, and of course national unity, to unite nationally behind the president of Igbo extraction in 2023? You find the details in page 16. $418 million Paris Club payment. Malami claims fraudulent self-serving. That's coming from governors. You find details on page 27. Ports task force drives up export by 363% in first quarter of 2022. You find the details on page 19. Ogiame Atuwatse III, a king in the eyes of the people. Details on page 21. And just below the masthead, we have 2023 Tinubu mom after closed-door meeting with Obasanjo. Tinubu mom after closed-door meeting with Obasanjo. Details on page 10. Blackout as workers shut down national grid is the headlines on the news Vanguard newspaper, with riders striking workers lay siege to power ministry, ministers locked out. Labour minister wades in, strike suspended for 2 weeks. Why we can't generate 5 megawatts of power. That's coming from the federal government. You find details on page 5 and 9. At the side piece of the picture message, Buhari IBB Ogun governor mourn as Chief Duro Onabule dies at 83. You'll find the details on page 6. Security threats. Jigawa government closes schools abruptly. Details on page 28. And the picture story you see there, Plateau State Christian Association of Nigeria CAN chairman, Reverend Father Polycarp Lubo, Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State, and Professor Soni Theodin, Deputy Governor, during the 19th General Assembly of the Catholic Archdiocese in Jos yesterday. PDP crisis. Pressure mounts on Ayu to step aside as old video surfaces. PDP crisis. Pressure mounts on Ayu to step aside as old video surfaces. That details on page 8. At the bottom plate of the Vanguard newspaper, Babangida at 81. Your leadership legacies enduring. Northern Governors, PDP. You'll find that on 28, page 28. Kaduna locals lynch female kidnapper. Details on page 7. Blasphemy. Appeal court orders retrial of Kano singer sentenced to death. You'll find the details on page 6. Nadabo.
Okay, we have I have a couple of papers here, The Nation and of course the National Star. Let's start with The Nation, please, and then see what's there on the front page about. On the Nation newspaper this morning, we have the following stories. Right at the top, or rather above the masthead, we have these stories. One is on page 5, and it says, Federal Government, why we failed to meet 5,000 megawatt target. Why we failed to meet 5,000 megawatt target, electricity workers suspend strike. Details of that on page 5. And on page 4, PDP taken over by devil, says Bode George. On page 2, there is this story on troops destroy bandits, camps in Kaduna. And on page 29 of the Nation newspaper this morning, Bawa, EFCC secured 4,430 convictions in 19 months. Moving down a little right under the main plate, you have this story on page 5, which says, Blasphemy. Appeal court orders retrial of Kano singer sentenced to death. Page 5. The big story here is talking about, the Paris Club repayment, and governors hit Malemi on $418 million Paris Club payment, and the riders are AGF's action self-serving will pursue matter to Supreme Court. Details of that can be gotten on page 4. Now, moving down the page, we have 2023. Tinubu visits Obasanjo amid pomp. And then the following riders are huge crowd at ex-president's library complex stadium, and APC candidate scores Abiodun high. The picture story, as you can see, there are the two, statesmen there, Obasanjo and Asiwaju, in a very huge laughter mood. Now, on the foot of the page, right there, we have these stories, two of them as such. Controversy over 18 billion naira bush clearing cash, page 3. Page 2, wrestler to die by hanging. Wrestler to die by hanging. Now, let's look at the National Star. Well, we have these stories trending this morning on the front page of this very beautiful newspaper. Right above the masthead, if I can see it, let's just have the National Star there. Right above the masthead, or at the top of the page, you have Ondo government places 50,000 naira bounty on kidnappers. 50,000 naira bounty on kidnappers. Right below that, we have no plot to remove Abdullahi Adamu's APC National Working Committee. Get details of that, the National Star, page 12. And on page 20, appeal court orders retrieval of Kano singer sentenced to death for blasphemy. Yeah, the nation had it too. And then CBN raises interest rates on savings deposits to 4.2%. The big story here is nationwide blackout persists as electricity workers suspend strike. Page 4. And domestic violence, police arrest suspended Anambra local government chair. Right on that, we have Tinubu visits Obasanjo. We've had that too, the nation has it. And then moving down a little, we have Agric Ministry used 18.9 billion naira to clear bush, says House of Reps. Now that's the outlook of the front page of the National Star. And then these are the stories we have on these newspapers. Bayo, what more do we really...
Let's start with the issue of the strike.
Right.
You know, the Electricity Workers Union commenced their strike yesterday, and as at 3 p.m., they switched off the national grid and plunged the nation into blackout. However, sanity prevailed. They turned up with a meeting. A meeting was convened by the conciliator, the Minister of Labour and Employment, and a bipartite committee is set up and has been given 2 weeks to look into issues raised by the electricity workers. The issues are very varied. They concern about issues of promotions, issues about workers who had transited from the power holding company of Nigeria to the transmission company of Nigeria that are still not settled, and also issues of their remuneration, which are very, very germane. But the thing to worry about is this. If you withdraw your services, there are certain category of senior officers who, by the nature of their status, do not belong to the unions and don't join services. I think it is wrong and unilateral to go and switch off the national service. You are free to withdraw your services, but you are not free to plunge and tamper with national infrastructure and plunge the nation into darkness. In fact, what happens in some climate, in fact, I remember very well during the era in the military regime, when such unions declare strike, before the strike will start, they will deploy security men to man those areas to ensure that they don't tamper with the facilities. Yes. So you have withdrawn your services, fine. Go on with your strike. You have the right to withdraw your services, it's part of your freedom. But you don't have a right to tamper with national infrastructure. So this is the question. But sanity has prevailed now. But unfortunately, already gas supply shortage is already bedeviling the national grid. And therefore, the nation is a substantial part of the nation is still in blackout in spite of the fact that they have called off the strike. But the good thing is that at least they are talking and there's hope. And the president of the Senior Staff Association, Mr. Chike is his name, he has assured that they are going to resolve issues and this blackout will not continue. The other issue...
They're suspending it for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And so we hope that these 2 weeks will be used judiciously to actually tackle the issues that have been lingering so that we don't have this unnecessary blackout. Already, the power supply is having challenges. Challenges from the hydro end, challenges from gas supply. And luckily, just about a month ago, the Minister of Power briefed the nation about the agreement with Siemens, which will entail them bringing some automatic transmission equipment, which is going to increase the quantity of power that will be applied to the national grid. That is intended to increase the quantum of power supply available for transmission.
Don't you think the agreement with Siemens is taking too long?
Well, the agreement, when you make such agreement, it now behoves on the parties to now start manufacturing. Nobody manufactures this equipment and keep them. You have to request for them before they manufacture and then ship them across. It takes a long time. Just like in the issues of where we're having security challenges, and the National Assembly, in its wisdom, approved budget, the executive asked for funds from the escrowed account for purposes of acquiring equipment. When it is approved, that is when you now have to apply, and the manufacturer will commence manufacturing.
Bayo, I think let's look deeply into this issue of strikes, especially by the recent one. We are still yet contending with the issue of ASU and some other ones. And here comes this one. But my major problem is the length of the strike and the effect of the strike and what came out of it. 2-3 days went off, put the nation into darkness. Just within hours, they are back. And 2 weeks were given, was given really by, the minister for them to really sit down and talk. Why can't there be that 2 weeks before the strike takes place? Why can't, the unions look at these issues, and the government and the union too on the same side should try to look at, the losses and the effect of this kind of strikes and this kind of threats, I may say, because when you look at it, just imagine how much was lost yesterday.
Yes.
And day before yesterday.
Huge amount.
In terms of the, the finances, the energy, the man hour, and everything you can think of. Is it because we are just too many in this country, or rather many, I would say, because we are not too many? 200 million, then we keep toying with the time and the resources we have. This thing could have been settled much earlier before even they go to
Yes. This issue that they were able to resolve yesterday, because a high-powered delegation of government, including the secretary to the government of the federation, the ministers in charge of those that sector, all of them were at hand, and they were able to muster at least cooperation to prevail on the electricity workers to agree that something has to be done in 2 weeks. Like you said, this could have been done prior before reaching the situation of plunging the nation into darkness. Talking about ASU strike now, according to the report from the leadership and blueprint, ASU is supposed to meet today again with the delegation of the federal government. Again, they are supposed to continue in the path of talking. But there is at least what can be described as an olive leaf from the academic staff union. And they are saying that if government agrees to their terms of agreement and a sign, within a week, they can call off the strike. Already the strike has gotten to 186 days since it started February 14th.
You're tracking
something
this,
has to be done about it.
And we have to commend our military too for what they're doing in security. Our military, like in Kaduna yesterday, they found a local who was keeping criminals in her house, and unfortunately she was lynched. Briefly on that.
Yes, that's the success. Aside from that, even 6 persons were rescued in Chuku local government, in the area that is called Adawa, and one other local government area. In fact, what the military operation did was to take the war to the hideout of the group. And many of them had to run out and escape. There's now a mop-up of operations to see to what extent how many of them have been neutralized. But 6 women were rescued from the kidnappers' death. But I was talking about the ASU strike and trying to emphasize the fact that it is a problem that is serving nobody any usefulness. Because imagine a lecturer who has 2 children who are students. This same lecturer has his children, 2 of them at home. They can't go to school because of ASU strike. The father, because he's on strike since February 14, he has had no salary. So you can imagine the atmosphere in the house. So even within the university lecturer community, they are worried about the stagnation of this strike. And their determination is that, look, we are no longer going to go into any strike in future. Let's solve this problem once and for all and move on.
Well, let's hope it's solved once and for all, and let's hope that these losses really pay off at the end of the day. When they don't, then it seems we are in for another problem again. But
and at Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, Ogbomoso, yesterday the registrar put out an announcement. They are resuming the first semester that was interrupted today, and they are now trying to design their timetable to accommodate the lost period. So that's I think about the 6th state university that has pulled out of the ASU strike.
But no state never even went on the strike, actually. Yes. So, Bayo, thank you so much for coming.
All right.
Pleasure. We'll take a break now. When we return, Good Morning Nigeria continues. Don't go away.
Oh, well, Well, as a prompt for our conversation this morning on resolving conflicts in political parties, let's take this background report by Abdusalam Jibrin.
The 2023 general election is fast approaching and political activities is already taking shape ahead of the polls. Though campaigns are not scheduled to begin until September this year, experts are concerned about the conflicts currently being witnessed in some political parties. They note that the crisis is eliciting anxiety across the country. They suggest that some political gladiators are spearheading the formation of different factions within political parties. This undoubtedly has led to rancor, conflicts, and litigations within several political parties. The conduct of the primaries of some political parties has been fingered as a major reason for the conflicts currently being witnessed across some parties. The infamous dollarization of the process during the primaries, where it was alleged that delegates were financially induced, they insist, is a contributory factor to the crisis many political parties are currently facing. With the start of campaigns just a little over a month away, there are concerns that these intra-party conflicts and rancor could provoke violent rejection of the results by wide sections of the populace, as well as denial of legitimacy and authority to standard bearers and their deputies. How can these conflicts be managed or resolved ahead of the upcoming campaign process for the 2023 general election? What can be done towards making the campaign process peaceful and achieve desired results? These, along with other issues, guests on the program will speak to shortly.
Thank you, Abdusalam. And joining us in the studio to discuss the topic is architect Waziri Bulama. He is former National Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, APC. He is also a member of the National Advisory Council of the APC. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Thanks.
Also joining us in the studio is Shaba Ibrahim, member House of Representatives and PDP candidate for Lokoja Kogi Federal Constituency. It's good to have you join us again.
It's my pleasure. Good morning, Nigerians.
Poage Gregory Tonwari, a lawyer and public affairs analyst, is also right here with us in the studio to discuss this very important issue. Welcome, Poage.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
We are expecting Professor Emmanuel Remy, IED Professor of Political Institutions and Governance and Public Policy, Department of Political Science, University of Ibadan. When we were able to get connection to him, we'll bring him over and then we'll discuss this issue. Gentlemen, welcome once again.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, let me start with you. I don't want to talk with the politicians for a while. We will come to them later on. Let's get started with you. Much earlier, maybe you might have heard in our newspaper segment here this morning, we're discussing about strikes. And one striking thing about that conversation and the review, whenever, political season like this comes up, elections are coming to, about to start. And of course, people get so much worried and so many strikes take place. A lot of try to push on one or two demands. It so also happens with the political parties. That's just the way it is in this country. Whenever elections are about to take place, you find wranglings and disputes and so many crises. In all the parties, you can't exactly say this party doesn't have one or this. It all depends on the magnitude of what they have. I mean, from your, observation, what do you think causes this kind of thing at this time, not at any other time?
Thank you very much. If you look at party formations in Nigeria and how leadership recruitment is being done by political parties, you observe that, one, political parties lack internal party democracy. In that case, party members are not recruited, or leadership are not recruited through a transparent process. What we now have in Nigeria is an elite consensus whereby 2 or 3 political friends will now sit down and nominate somebody to represent a political party, even when that candidate is not the choice of the majority of members of that political party, definitely there will be resistance within that political party. These are the reasons.
Okay, the Electoral Act 2022 has sort of provided a guide for political parties for primaries, Section 82 to Section 85 of the Electoral Act. And before there was no Electoral Act, they said there was no guideline for primaries. Now the Electoral Act has come into play. How do you think it has augured well for the political parties out there? And keeping in mind the godfatherism thing that you've mentioned here, are we looking at, we have issues in primaries now. Are we looking at an election that has lots of conflict because the primary itself and issues arising from it have not been resolved?
No, if you look at most of these political parties, there is inbuilt conflict resolution mechanism within the party. I believe that any party that is serious about gaining power, because that is the entire idea behind formation of political party, how to gain and control political power. They have internal mechanism to resolve their crisis, which I believe they will do before next election.
Let's not talk politics and let's see what's happening. At least what's in the background there. Akituk Waziri, the APC and the PDP and other parties have crisis. We've just gotten the, reasons behind such crisis, especially at this time of politicking in Nigeria. The APC is not really safe and insulated from that, although it is the ruling party. What's really happening in that party? That's so much so that efforts have been made by some other class of party members and people outside and thinking of getting the head of the chairman and of course some other, grievances. Why so? Why now?
Well, I with all due, respect, the situation, in the APC is calm at the moment. You remember the party after the 2019 general elections, the leadership of the party was succeeded by the caretaker, was replaced, with this caretaker extraordinary convention planning committee, which completely restructured and rebuilt the party from bottom up. The membership register was updated, and then we elected leadership at all levels of party organization, from the polling unit to the ward, local government, state, and then the national convention, which we held in the second quarter of this year, and following which we also came up with the national convention that produced a presidential candidate. We are united, we are cohesive, we are focused, and we don't have acrimony and all these things that my distinguished lawyer is talking about. These are things that had happened in the past, because from 1999, when the democratic dispensation started, we struggled really with organization of the parties, and so most of the decisions really were taken from top down and so on, and the parties struggled to survive as stable organizations with good processes, systems, and procedures. I mean, there are internal bureaucracies that would address the issues of internal democracy. But we've come a long way, and in the APC, we have succeeded really in ensuring that the party is united and stable. We have an experienced, leadership in the person of the guardian and the father of the party, President Muhammadu Buhari. We have an experienced, national chairman who has been managing people and politics and leadership for a long time, in the person of Senator, Abla Adamu, the national chairman, and then of course we have also succeeded in producing a very capable, experienced manager of people and resources who was transparently and openly and cleanly elected overwhelmingly by the delegates of the party in our national convention, the emergence of our candidate Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So at the moment, really, we don't have the discontent and ill feelings well experienced in other parties in the APC.
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
Just a minute before you write on Juma. The word you use, calm, here is just very heartwarming, really. But that doesn't really, explain the fact that there are no crises in that party. And then the issue is that resolving those crises is why we are here this morning, to look at these parties and then see how resolutions can be reached within the shortest possible time, and then have a free and fair elections and campaigns rather before the elections take place. A lot of people will not really agree with the fact that there is no crisis whatsoever in APC. It's not just, it may not be the fact, really.
A political party is dynamic. A political party is a human, institution. The products are people, and of course, as he rightly said, is the leadership recruitment center. It is the center for conflict resolution. Is the place where, of course, people, aggregate, people from various backgrounds, because by its formation, by the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution as well, a political party must necessarily, be multi-religious, multi-ethnic, it cannot be a product of any identity, politics. So there is always internal, dynamics within the parties, because interests converge, and these interests are diverse, and is reflected, of course, in our diversity as a nation. So political parties are always active, but as a party man, wherever I see any complaint or grudge or issue raised, I would really see whether the background to that complaint, whether that is just a complaint or whether it is serious, So this is the issue. There are, of course, statements you can read in the media, or sometimes, most especially in the social media, but they are not serious issues, really. There are no serious threats to the stability of the party. For instance, I don't see any question, about any challenge to the leadership of our party, for instance. I've not seen any serious threat to the adoption of our candidate from any stakeholder group, to the emergence of our candidate, for the presidency, for the 2023 general, elections. So, of course, there are discontent at the local levels, where many people came together to run for House of Assembly, House of Representatives, governorships, and so on. There is much more, activity at the local levels, and this the party actually is addressing, because there are people who have written to the party through the various organs of the party, seeking, complaining, and seeking for redress, and of course seeking for the intervention of the various strata of leadership to address. And indeed, truly, Section 18 of our party constitution has provision for setting up a reconciliation and dispute resolution committee, which would, of course, deploy the internal dispute resolution measures and mechanisms to address these issues. And this continuous engagement, with party members will continue while we focus our mind on the activities towards preparing for the general elections. So that's the position at the moment in the APC. So we are really, comfortable.
Okay.
Yes.
But let's look at the position of the PDP, and today we're discussing resolving conflicts in political parties. Just a month or so before the campaigns begin, there have been fractions in some parties arising from political parties not agreeing on some issues, and we've seen it play out day in, day out. So, would you say this is healthy for democracy in Nigeria with just a few months to elections?
Thank you very much. Let me state ab initio that conflict and the mechanism for resolving conflict are an integral part of any democratic process. Where you have people, naturally, people have diverse opinion, diverse aspiration, diverse expectations, and so forth and so on. And naturally, there will be conflict in course of human endeavor, not to talk of when you are talking about a political party that is poised to, take power, which is the major objective of setting up political parties. But let me state, it would be idle to pretend that all is well within the PDP. I'm not going to tell you that, no. All is not well. But I'm going to tell you, I can tell you confidently that it's not beyond the resolution. Mm-hmm. I just came back from Port Harcourt yesterday, and the major gladiators, the little interface we've had with him, what I've had them say, there's something you won't take away from the major actors here. They all are committed to the ideas for which the PDP was settled. And again, one very interesting thing is in the PDP, you don't have this central line of command where one man will say, look, sit down, everybody, and they obey. No. That is, the democratic nature of it is why you're seeing some of this crisis lingering or festering. With all due respect, you won't say that about the other major parties. There's nothing to fear about a man who voices out his feelings. People will generally have discontent. If they don't say it, then how do you even resolve it? What you're having in some parties is, that people may be mistaken for calm is what I call peace of the graveyard. All is not well for the discerning mind. But because if people feel aggrieved and they can't talk, there's something ominous about silence. That is what I see in some of these cases. But within the PDP, I can assure you, we'll get to it. I am close enough to know that these crises are not beyond resolution. And if you listen to some of the utterances, you see everybody seems to be scaling down the rhetorics in recent times. You agree with me? I can make copious reference to occasions. I was present yesterday in Port Harcourt. The day before yesterday, I had Governor Wike, if I may mention his name, because he's very pivotal to a lot of things happening in the party. So I heard him talk about people who go back home and deliver the PDP. That is not the statement of a man who wants to rock the boat, per se. But what I think, what I see from my little observation and everything is, there are certain things certain I's that need to be dotted and T's to be crossed. We do that when semi-finals.
Get to the finals.
We're in semi-finals. We will get to the final. We will breast the table.
Well, thank you so much. A few issues you've raised here, we'll look at them as we continue conversation. But in the meantime, let's welcome on board Professor Emmanuel Remi Ayede. Professor Emmanuel Remi Ayede is Professor of Political Institutions, Governance and Public Policy of the Department of Political Science, University of Ibadan. Prof, let's just continue right away so that you have we hear your opening salvo on this very topic of resolving conflicts in political parties. I don't know whether you've been with us from the beginning of this program, but all the same, a little recap will go a long way in trying to, shape your opinions or whatever you would say to the answer, as an answer to the question I may ask. The gentleman in the studio, talked about, gave us a background at least of causes of crisis and conflicts in political parties, which of course is why we're here this morning. And then the two political party members here of the PDP and the APC gave us a perspective of their various, of their parties as relates to conflicts and crisis. One is saying the party is calm, the other is saying it's, action in progress. And of course, we all do agree that there are conflicts, no matter how small. It's not really very much an easy, thing to do because people have come together. Now, what's your opinion about these crises and resolving them, or are their resolutions at this time of the political calendar, talking about campaigns just about 30 days away, and then parties are still grappling with internal conflicts and crises, if I may use these words?
Very much, and good morning, viewers. I agree with the earlier submission of the two members of the political parties on the studio. Yes, conflict is intrinsic to all human organizations, and particularly more so with political parties, because political parties, by their very nature and function, are riddled with conflict. That's why they try to aggregate interest. And since they are bodies with the responsibility of aggregating interest, naturally there will be this conflict of interest. But much more than that is also the fact that by their very nature, political parties are supposed to be conflict management organizations. So it's expected that in as much as they try to aggregate interest, part of the process is conflict resolution. But of course, conflict is also natural to organizations, as I've said before. The point is that not all conflicts are necessarily harmful to the organization. And that's why I agree with Honorable Ibrahim that there's nothing wrong when members of political parties express their grievances. But what is particularly important is that now that we are close to the campaign period, we expected the political parties to be focused on their preparation for campaigns and so on and so forth, rather than being bogged down by protracted conflict, which is spiraling into some kind of crisis, because it sends wrong signals to members through the rank and file. And we think that it will affect the level of preparedness and the functionality of these political parties. I think that is the crux of this discussion. And what it raises is the extent to which the conflict management structures and processes within the political parties are effective. Otherwise, the issues on the ground, following the primaries, following the determination of the running mates for the presidential candidates, are things that the party by this time should get used to. This is not the first time the parties are contesting the presidential elections. They are actually parties that have been in government before. We expected their internal processes to be much smoother than it currently is. And I think there's a lot to say about the management of the political parties in terms of the protracted conflict that we have seen in the build-up to the primaries, and also in the post-primaries period, now still dragging on onto the campaign period. That's actually what is worrisome about the current conflict situation. And the way, it's also portrayed in the media. The key actors are talking to the press. They are, sort of giving wrong impression, or if I may put it that way, concerning the state of the political parties. And that's not good enough for the image of the political parties, especially as we are marching into the campaign season.
Talking about issues on grounds, there are so many issues arising from the primaries of most of the political parties. Several litigations arising within the political parties so close to the campaigns. We hear of people who contested primaries, but their names are not with INEC, and candidates are not allowed to contest under that party. A lot of confusion is going on here, just a month plus before the campaigns begin. Do you think this is good for the campaigns itself and the process towards the elections?
This is not good for the political process. And as I mentioned earlier, it gives a very wrong impression of the political parties, or rather it tells a lot about the state of the political parties in terms of internal democracy, in terms of observing due process within the political parties, and also in terms of the openness of the political process, both for participation and then for inclusion. You find that some of the conflicts that are happening is very baffling and below expectation, especially if you talk about parties conducting primaries that has been observed by INEC, and then you find out that the names of the winners of those primaries are not the names submitted to INEC. And the INEC comes out and says the names that are here are not derived from the primaries observed by its staff. That shows that there's lawlessness and disregard for due process within the political parties. It also tells a lot about the leadership of the parties. And if this happen, if this is happening at the higher level, for instance, in terms of senatorial primaries, these are not primaries at the local government level. Happening at that level tells a lot about the quality of leadership within the political parties. It means that even the leadership of the political parties have no regard, for due process. Not only does it create problem for the cohesiveness of the party, it sends wrong signal to the rank and file at the lower level, and it sort of drains the political parties of trust and social capital. And these are very important ingredients of political participation, of collaboration and cooperation within the political parties. Now, how do you carry out an effective campaign if people don't trust one another, if people don't believe that the parties will take decision in the benefit to the benefit of those who are sacrificing for the political parties? I've heard a lot of politicians say that one political party or the other has no good rewarding process, that those who work for the party are left unattended to, they are not rewarded for the effort they are put into the parties, while those who are just newcomers, who can reroad themselves through the leadership of the political parties, are given prime opportunities. So it shows that there's a lot of instability within the political parties, and the processes of the political parties are not institutionalized. And that's why we are really worried that we are moving very close to the campaign period, and they are unable to resolve some of these conflicts.
Well, thank you, Prof, for that, insight and perspective. Waziri Bulama, you've heard what the Prof said, and of course, a specific example is given there, and then looking at the wranglings, the conflicts in the party, and what you're here to really look at resolving conflicts in political parties. In the APC, as he rightly said, there are issues of primaries, issues arising from the primary elections, and some other issues, especially senatorial elections, primaries, and things like that. And these are not really gone down well with some of the members of the party. And when you claim it's calm, really, it's really calm, but of course, the conflicts are still there, and it boils down to where the electorates are, because they are the ones to really vote and vote for the people they really nominated or set out to for the primaries. How would you react to this specific example, for instance, put forward?
In my earlier submission, I've not denied the fact that there are a few issues, at the other levels, especially at the gubernatorial, senatorial, and revs and so on, at the other lower levels of party organization, where people competed and contested for the various, positions. And of course, in our party, two of these cases stick out very clearly because the two, the gladiators, I mean, these are big men. Senator Ahmed Lawan, the Senate President, issue in Yobe State, and as well as that of Senator Godswill Akpabio, another great leader of our party, from, Akwa Ibom State. These are, few things in the APC. At the moment, they are in the courts, and I'm sure this issue will play out. But what is responsible for this consensus, for this calm, and unity in the APC was not something that, just happened like that. In the APC, our leaders and stakeholders continuously met and discussed, continuously engaged each other. And that is actually before for instance, the convention came, or before for instance, the national convention that produced the leadership of the party. For instance, one of the major stakeholder groups in the party, the Progressive Governors Forum, met and came up with a consensus list for party leaders, which was agreed and signed by all of them, the 22 governors of the APC, and eventually that was accepted in the convention, and the few guys that dissented were appeased, at the national convention on the day of the convention, which was covered live in the nationwide. Now, the stages and the period preceding the national convention to produce the presidential candidate was also, there was also intensive, consultation. And of course, I could remember the president himself also, President Muhammadu Buhari, the leader of the party, also got involved. He, addressed the candidates. He addressed the committee of the forum of APC governors. He also invited the national, advisory council of the party, the topmost, leaders of the party, former national chairman, current the NWC, and all the senior leaders of the party, and appealed to them on the need to close ranks, and for instance, this actually helped in ensuring that we had a very peaceful, transparent, credible, national convention, which was acceptable to, all the party men and members in the country. For instance, what we managed was far bigger than what the PDP managed, for instance, in the convention. The PDP convention had around 700 plus delegates because they had one national delegate from every local government. In our own case, we had 3 national delegates from every local government. So we had bigger numbers. We had about 3,000, 2,800, close to 3,000 delegates. They came to the Eagle Square, and each of these 23, aspirants for the ticket, all of them competent to lead our party in the next elections. All of them. They all had, they were all senior leaders of this party. They had paid their dues, from Asiwaju to Vice President Osibanjo to Senator Okorocha to Godswill Akpabio to Bello. All these are, extremely, successful members of our party who, presented various, ideas and leadership attributes in our party. They presented themselves before the delegates, and then eventually the delegates voted and agreed on one of them. One got majority of the votes and he marched. And since the convention took place, the leadership of our party, both the national leadership as well as the person who, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who emerged as a flag bearer, has been meeting and engaging all these leaders who participated in the national convention so as to ensure unity, oneness, cohesion, inclusiveness. So that is why there is a great deal of calm in the party. You don't see any. I haven't seen any bad comment, or disagreement, for over the outcome of our convention. And I haven't seen any serious court case or litigation challenging the outcome of this convention. So at the moment, our leaders both the candidate and the leadership of our party, they are consulting and trying to, with a view to setting up a campaign council to prosecute, to plan and embark on the campaigns when the campaign, starts in September. So that is the position of things now.
If I may comment, you said there's calm in the party.
Yeah.
And people like Ahmed Lawan went for the presidential ticket.
Yes.
Though it is in court now, we are not supposed to be discussing it.
Yes.
Was there an agreement? Because we are seeing a new procedure now, which is called stand-in. Wait for me, if I lose there, I come back, then I take my ticket. But the person who went for the primaries, which was presided over by INEC itself,
yes,
at the end of the day, he got the ticket for the Senate.
yes,
And now they are saying they have no candidate there.
yes.
I don't understand. Does this make sense?
Well, these peculiar cases, the few ones, especially the Ahmed Lawan case and the Senator Fabio case, the two are too technical really for me as a non-legal person to comment. And of course, the matter is also before the courts.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, but clearly, for instance, the idea of stand-in candidates, which
is that a new trend we'll be seeing?
That's a new trend.
Future,
it's a novelty, really. It's a new trend because the time frame within which were to produce candidates as well as and running mates, was too short, and therefore, of course, the party and the leadership look at certain avenues that can be exploited to do that. For instance, in the case of the vice presidential candidate of our party, initially the name of Ibrahim Masari was presented as to beat the deadline. Yes. So eventually, when the consultations were full and completed, the parties, Masari actually, withdrew, and he was substituted by Senator Kashima Shettima eventually, who was the consensus candidate of the leadership of our party, and the choice of the candidate of our party, Asiwaju Jubala Ahmed Tinubu. It's a new development, really. And as we go on, with this practice of democracy, we'll be seeing more of these interesting things. People, unlike the past, where decisions are taken at the top and imposed, this time around, the party members and leaders are very conscious of the Nigerian Constitution, the Electoral Act, and the newfound, voice and the strength of the judicial system in the country, that takes decisions free of interference. They take objective decisions. So anybody can go to court and challenge anything, and he can get his right. And of course, INEC too, under this leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, has become more empowered, more independent, and more assertive. And voters too, they have found their voice now because votes count. So because of that, leaders of parties are extremely conscious of these new developments. So adherence to rules is becoming more and more and more dire for all of us, really. Because we cannot have...
It's evolving all the
time.
Indeed,
yes.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Architect Waziri. Shabu Ibrahim, it's not also really very, as you earlier admitted, so really calm and then rancor-free in the PDP. And then when we look at the situations at the moment, you said you are from Port Harcourt, just like yesterday. And you've been talking to the gladiators, and they've been admitting one thing or the other, and then putting forward one thing or the other. Wiki, as you specifically mentioned, has been in the forefront of this so-called conflict, if there is a crisis, if you may call it so. And that has not been really been going down well with members generally at the grassroots when they see the gladiators at the top really having this kind of press statements and press movements and press actions all over the place. One wonders how would the PDP move into campaigns in a situation where, for instance, some members of the party are asking the chairman to resign. How would that be? How strong would the party be with this kind of calls at this moment as we head towards campaigns? Campaigns are led by the chairman because the leader of the party, and he speaks well there. People respect him.
Thank you. Let me be very clear on this. I don't pretend to be the spokesman of the PDP. I speak for myself as a party adherent and somebody who has been following events keenly as an interested, as a stakeholder in my own little right. You see, what I said what you said is quite true. Yeah, it's worrisome, but like I did say earlier on, it's not beyond resolution. I've listened carefully to the gladiators. I've listened carefully to the gladiators. And if you observe, there's a scaling down of rhetorics in recent time. It's not by happenstance. It's deliberate. People have waded in. The people, they are reasonable people. They all understand the need to come together and rescue this country from this kind of leadership that we have at the moment. The people are quite worried. Nigerians are quite concerned. I know the number of calls I had when I was on my way to say, please find a way. I have them on my phone. Find a way to resolve this crisis because Nigerians look up to the PDP for that leadership. You see, when I listen to Alhaji Bulama talk about internal democracy and what have you, and thinks that the PDP's problem is much more heavier than that of the APC, I feel a bit amused. Amused in the sense that the same party that is supposed to have internal democracy can have its governors gather and issue fatwas relating to who should contest and who should not.
What's fatwa?
Decrees. He said it. I'm picking it from. Yeah. He said it. The governors will sit down D20. So governors, democracy shouldn't work from top bottom. I think it should be a general aggregate of the views of the ordinary people who are members of the party. I read in the papers, he's here, he could confirm or deny it, that some aggrieved members of the party that are supposed to enjoy this calm he's talking about are asking for a refund of their monies prior to the primaries. They bought forms and they were asked to step down from the almighty structure of the party. The same party, except for the resilience of one man, was going to impose on the entire party structure a candidate that they dubbed adopted candidate. And it was presented by no less a personality than the national chairman of that party. I don't have any problem. I'm not an APC member, but I really do think that sometimes it is problems identified and admitted are on their way to solution. But if we continue to bask in this affair of, hey, we have calm, we're cool. Yes, now it's the ruling party. People are tied to its apron strings one way or the other because of pecs and what have you. But like we say in local parlance on the street, when jungle mature, then you know all is not well.
Actually, Bulama, you need to respond to what he's saying.
Yes.
No, I didn't bring forth any facts here. Just speaking from what you said. But again, the APC as configured, with all due respect, is far from my own understanding of what a party that has internal democracy should.
But
and let me just make this point before I put this issue to bed. So that I don't forget. You see, again, what he calls minor crisis.
Now, I don't want us to be referring to what he said. I have a question which I asked to you.
Okay.
And I want you to respond and answer my question. The question is...
Okay, I thought it's interactive.
It's interactive.
It's interactive.
It's interactive.
I can respond to him, he can respond to you like that. That's my understanding of it. But if you want to streamline it, I'm good.
No, I'm not streamlining.
He's getting to respond to you. Now let's get his response.
No, you've urged him to respond. He's going to respond. I don't have any qualms with that. But I need you to also take this point, but
Okay.
except you say I should drop it.
No, go ahead.
No.
Okay, maybe I should just stop.
Go ahead,
Let him.
just go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's okay.
We want
It's
you
okay.
to land well.
No, it's okay. I think I've said enough. Repetition does not add value to argument. Let him go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, respond. We'll
Yes.
get back to that later.
Yes. The point you see, the practice in our party, we know, for instance, the nascent nature of the parties. The parties, you see, by their formation and history, are still very weak. They have a very lean structure, and most of the engagements and assignments in the party are carried out by ad hoc committees. Some standing, some ad hoc, and some non-standing committees. So to make up for the weaknesses in the party, we engage in consultations. Stakeholders meet, and where, for instance, there are many candidates or burning issues, leaders meet at various levels of party organization. Governors meet, National Assembly members meet, Board of Trustees members meet. There are many organs, some formal, admitted in the constitution of the party, and some informal. But what I'm trying to say is the calm and peace and consensus that we're seeing in the APC was earned through continuous consultation. And the party's constitution also provides for, decisions over candidates or party leadership. It admits, direct or indirect election or consensus. So if leaders of the party or delegates in the party are, meet and agree on a position, it is legal and it is also political. It is accepted. So the practice of meeting and continuous engagement and discussion to reach a common position is very, very high and very common in the APC. And apart from the few cases that we are seeing in the courts, but there is a great deal of calmness, within the APC, to be very frank. And especially the way we conducted our national convention was political, legal, acceptable to all the members of our party. The way we also carried out our convention to produce the candidate of our party, the flag bearer of our party, was clear, clean, transparent, inclusive, and everybody is happy. And we are also now moved away from that. The thing that the APC is now handling, the leadership of the party, the presidential flag bearer of the party, as well as the father of the party. What they are concerned is how do we set up or produce an inclusive campaign organization? How do we generate programs and ideas to convince party members and to also engage Nigerians on issue-based campaign, a knowledge-driven campaign? How do we address Nigeria's major concern? How do we consolidate on the gains this government has made in the last 7 years? And what are the issues that will present to Nigerians? This is what we are concerned with. We are not really bothered about party unity and so on. All our 22 governors, are united. All our national assembly members are, behind the party, and all our stakeholders are behind, our president, our party, and our candidate.
Okay, now, lest we forget and lest we get off the track, we're talking about resolving conflicts in political parties. And then these are issues we should look at because it's in the interest of not only the parties, but Nigeria and Nigerians generally. As we move towards 2023, it's admitted that conflicts or crises are there. You cannot have 2-3 people without having crises or conflicts. But how you resolve them, determines how strong you are as a people and how strong you are as a party. Gregory.
I thought I have a right of reply.
Go ahead.
You do.
On points of law.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. But let's not make it like because we have two other guests.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm just going to let me just make this point. Right. You see, some of the things that he has alluded to, with all due respect, like the issue of Ahmad Lawan, they are not crisis, they are not even issues that should arise. I mean, should surface anywhere. These are signposts of impunity. Impunity. Mark my words. The law is clear. You can make copious reference to legislations that forbid some of the things that the APC is trying to do. But I wish them luck.
But it's in the court now anyway. That could be sorted out.
I wish them luck. I leave it at that.
I was just trying to bring us back on track. and then see. As a public affairs analyst, you've at least heard them. You've heard them not only here, but all over the place. You've seen their activities, political parties, generally, not only APC and PDP in this country. And then earlier you talked about lack of internal democracy as one of the causes of this crisis. And the godfatherism, that happens to be very strong in some of these political parties as causes. And let's look at how to resolve this crisis. Do these parties, from your own perspective, have strong internal mechanism to resolve some of these crises and conflicts? If they do, right, how are they handling these mechanisms?
Thank you very much. If I get your question very rightly, we are trying to look at how these political parties will resolve the internal crisis they are having today, at least towards the general election, at least for them to capture political power and allocate resources. One, I'm going to look at it in two perspectives. The immediate solution to what they are having in political parties right now. One, the party gladiators who are the major sources of this conflict must be honest and sincere to themselves about what they put on the table, about the conversation they are having, how sincere, how honest are they to what they are telling the other party. Because politicians, they can be telling you one thing, but what is at the back of their mind is different. So if these gladiators are sincere to themselves and administer justice, parties are ready to let go their strong grounds and have a common space for them to operate. With this now, that is the immediate thing these political parties can do right now to solve these issues. But in the long term, the political parties need to strengthen their management and decouple the management of political parties from governance. If you look at it all over the country, the governor of a state, of a political party, is the leader of the party in that particular state. So also, the president on the particular political party is the leader of that political party nationwide. Ordinarily, it's not supposed to be like that. Party management is supposed to have been different from governance. With that now, there will be less interference. But as we are growing in our democratic experience, all these issues will be resolved with time. But in the short time, the parties to this conflict should be sincere to themselves. Because every party to this conflict, they need justice. They want their interests to be protected. You cannot just get up and throw away somebody who have invested his time and energy into building a political structure. Then you now, because of one or two relationships you have at the top, you impose a candidate that is not the will of the people. They will resist you. There will be resistance. So in the short term, they should be sincere and be honest and protect the interests of each of these gladiators. That's it.
What about the long term?
The long term now, the party should develop an ideology. Party should be developed along ideological lines, whereby even from the national level, even up to secondary school level, there could be that track of development whereby I am interested in party A. I should belong to that level of party A at the grassroots level and grow through the ranks. At the end of the day, I will not imbibe myself with the culture and value of that political party. But if you look at the political associations or political parties in Nigeria today, they don't stand for single ideology. None. And even when I look at them engaging in debate about I want to solve Nigeria, none of them have even talked about the tax policy. Because these are the key drivers of economic activities. How do you now translate economic activities into material well-being of the citizens? You need some drivers, and tax is very important. None of the political parties have even addressed it. So these are the issues, and look at it very well. Party financing is equally very important. Because a fat cat who bankroll the entire political party would like to call all the shots. You can't take that from him, because who pays the piper, takes the toll. So these are the crises, so these are the sources of crisis we have in this country today, politically speaking.
Well, you've raised a lot of pertinent questions there this morning, but we'll come back to that after this break. Don't go away.
Thank you.
Welcome back, and this is still Good Morning Nigeria, and we are discussing resolving conflicts in political parties. Let's join Professor Emmanuel Remi Ayede. He's a professor of political institutions. You've been listening to the conversation in the studio this morning, and I'm sure you're itching to contribute. My question is there a quick fix to resolving this current conflict in the political parties? And when the campaigns come, will we be looking at issue-based campaign here?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important to first of all underscore the fact that these political parties have adopted a number of conflict resolution measures. If you observe, preceding the primaries of one of the political parties, there was document passed around for aspirants to commit to respecting the outcome of the primaries. That measure is to forestall or prevent likely litigations and conflict that may follow, the outcome of the primaries. And another thing you also notice is that there have been all kinds of visitations, which means dialogue has been going on within the political parties. Honorable Ibrahim was talking about himself just returning from Port Harcourt yesterday. Continuous dialogue is key, and communication and appeal and explanations, bargaining, they are all part of the measures that they need to employ in trying to address these conflicts in the short run. And it's also a fact that the argument has been that they didn't start this on time, or they were not doing enough of it immediately after the primaries or after the announcement of the vice presidential candidate for the PDP. So I think as they continue to interact, as they continue to dialogue, and they continue to bargain with one another, they are likely to put the conflict behind them, so that they can quickly come together to begin to think about what programs they are going to present to Nigerians as part of their political campaigns. Conflict will always arise, as we said before, and what we expect is that the measures should be taken to ensure that it is not blown out of proportion. And one of the things they should also try to avoid is this whole tendency, again, I want to mention Ibrahim talked about impunity within the political parties, and no party is free from this. I mean, none of the major parties are free from this whole idea of impunity. You have party constitutions, you have party rules and regulations, you have even high members of the leadership of the political party disregarding some of those rules, which actually ike or make some of these parties to the conflicts very, very angry. So they should try as much as they can to keep to their own rules and regulations, especially making the processes very predictable, so that those who are participating in any processes within the political party will have the assurance that they will be treated fairly. It is better for people to walk through the process and lose out than for them to think that the process has been abused or manipulated to their disfavor, and then you are now coming out to begin to appeal to them, to their understanding. You are now appealing to the idea of party supremacy and so on and so forth. I think the party leadership must learn to follow their own rules, and if they think that the rule is not good enough, they should adjust it before any contest is implemented. So they don't have this kind of messy situations that we are facing today. And I hope that their negotiation and dialogue will succeed, and eventually the party will sheath their sword, and then they can begin to cohere once again and prepare for the campaign, because this most of this crisis would have been very minor conflict that will be a routine, routinely addressed, rather than the current crisis that it is trying to unfold on the political parties. That's what I think they should continue to do in the short run. In the long run, the point has been made, they must obey their own rules. They must ensure that this tendency to opinion, because it's not a good thing for a political party, for instance, to say that we are not feeding a candidate, or for them to feed a candidate after winning the election, as we see in Zamfara State. The court eventually comes and say they were not, the political party did not legally present a candidate. And then, of course, we have had situations where the party will say, we don't have political candidate, because the person who won the primaries is not in favor of the leadership of the party, and the candidate that is favored by the leadership of the party is unable to, to fulfill the requirement of due process and law, and therefore they say they don't have candidate. I mean, these things are done in bad faith, and they don't help strengthen the political parties. If anything at all, they deinstitutionalize the political parties. They make nonsense of the internal process of those political parties, and we begin to go back and forth without having very strong political parties that can effectively function, to deepen our democracy and effectively govern when they eventually assume power.
Thank you, Professor Aide. Shaba, let's talk more about my earlier question, because I'm still soliciting for that answer. And talking about, what Shaba, what Professor just said, the internal, mechanism for conflict resolution. Good enough, you said you've from Port Harcourt, you've been shuttling all around with some of your members trying to resolve, especially the crisis in the PDP. And then it's heartwarming to also know that the tempo is really coming down given the efforts you've made. But as we approach the elections, as I earlier asked, all right, where some party members giving terms of, conditions for whatever they need in order to, come back to the fold and then carry or make the party united once again, one of which is to get the head of the PDP chairman, which the PDP chairman responded by saying he's not moving an inch because he has a mandate. Now, how would you respond to this, given the fact that we have only 30 days to elections?
Okay, thank you. Let me make it very clear that at that level, everything is on the table. Everything is on the table. I mean, no price is too much to pay for peace, if you ask me. The parties are looking at, on both sides, there are demands that are rational. You see, what we call pain sometimes can be subjective. Your perception may be different from mine. Something may happen and you think, oh, why is he here? Oh, hell, he's overreacting. But he who feels it knows it. So it is this internal mechanism that is embedded in the party's constitution that has been activated now, triggered now, to look into all those issues, the gray areas, and they're doing a good job of it. I'm not, let me not claim credit for what has been happening per se. No, I went in company of my leader, the former governor of my state, Alhaji Ibrahim Idris, but I said I was proximate enough to observe the happenings and also chip in my own little advice where I had to, and things are taking shape. The issue of the national church, they are all bargaining chips. If you come, it's like those days in, I don't know if you speak Yoruba, in criminal law, you say like retribution, or something like that. What I learned in criminal law classes. It's like, well, you've gone for this, I have to take this, kind of a quid pro quo kind of thing. But again, it is because where information stops, rumor and perception creeping. Now the parties are on face to face. They are going to talk. I've not seen anybody that is, His Excellency, that the party's presidential candidate. I mean, he's been very, very unequivocal about the fact that, look, His Excellency Nyesom Wike is a very, very important member of the party, and no party would want to lose a man like that, not at this stage. Let me make that clear. I share that view too. You know, the only things that are we are all agreed on one fundamental thing, which is that we must come together. What we are working on now is the route to attaining that consensus. And I can assure you, with the caliber of people who have seen there, the former Attorney General is leading the Governor Nyesom Wike camp, and His Excellency Fintiri from the Atiku camp. And these are men that have been imbued with what you call, I can speak for the former Attorney General. These are people that are very versed in the art of reconciling opposites, not to talk of people within the sphere of the same political party. So what, if I will borrow Nyesom Wike's term, what he said long ago is, it is better to remain where there is malaria than to move on to where there is cancer. I agree wholeheartedly with it, and I think Wike is a man of his words. We are going to resolve this crisis. I've never been more positive than the last few days. It is not beyond resolution. The party is going to resolve at the national chairman's level, at every level. We will move into this election by the grace of God as one big family with a view to upstaging the status quo. Thank you.
As the campaigns come on now, are we looking at issue-based campaigns from both parties?
Oh, sure. You see, the parties already have their documents on both sides. The only problem is when people... Sorry, I did mention before that some of these crises will be needless if we took heed of extant laws, the Electoral Act, party guidelines, and stuff like that. The parties already have their working documents, they have their manifestos, they have their blueprints, and all we need to do is, once we get the ship to sail, you see some of these things manifesting, unfolding. Every party is ready to present his what have you to the electorate, and between you and I think we have a sellable document, with all due respect, at the risk of sounding immodest. So there's nothing to worry too much about again within the realm of the PDP as far as all this crisis is concerned. We'll go into the elections. I'm confident, mark my words, we'll go as one big family and we'll deliver to Nigerians.
Thank you very much. Gregory, tell us, we've been talking about PDP and APC, and there are some other parties, NMPP, Labour Party, ABGA, and the rest of them. We cannot say they too don't have their crisis or conflicts here and there. There are cross-carpeting issues, there are disgruntlements, there are, dissatisfaction among some other parties that causes some movements and some statements and whatever. These parties we have, and these dissatisfactions that come up in these parties, as if I said, are caused by certain reasons. To a great extent, all right, it should not be that Nigerians are looking up to these two parties because they are Nigerians in other parties. What would you say? From your observatory tour, what did you observe so much about these smaller parties, if they are really small parties?
Like the professor rightly said, crisis is innate to human interaction, especially when it's being driven by interest. Political parties are formed for the basis of capturing power and allocate scarce resources in the society. And these are the drivers. So all the parties in Nigeria, none is exempted. They have their crisis. But why PDP, APC issue is at the top is because APC is the ruling party in the country. PDP has been in government for a very long time. Then they stepped down the referendum of 2015 forced them out of power. That is why the PDP APC crisis is known, or it's as if that these are the only two political parties. Other parties, they have their issues. Other parties from all the parties in Nigeria, they have their internal problem. They have their crisis. Because If you look at it for the body language of even the gladiators, they don't even believe in the policy document of their own political party, the rules that guide their association. They don't even believe in it. They believe that since I have overwhelming influence in this political party, I can dictate what happens in the party, ignoring the rules of the party, the party constitution, even the constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is only when your interest is being threatened that some people are bold enough going through, because they know that they will not obtain justice within the mechanism provided by the political party. They now go to court to enforce their right. That is when these now get to court. All parties in Nigeria, they have their issues, internal crisis. But PDP and APC, these are the two elephants fighting. So that is why their own is pronounced as if they are the only two major political parties in Nigeria. But But I believe with time, the character, because even the gladiators themselves, they've not really democratized their persons. They don't even believe that democracy involves debate, consensus building, superior argument takes the day. They don't believe in that. Okay. They believe that I am the leader, you must obey me. It's not done that way. There will be resistance.
Maybe with time as we move on,
yes,
it's a process.
They will democratize their dispositions to debate.
Yes, and as we round up, Blama, we've got maybe 1 minute or so on this program. In 30 seconds, what should be your parting shots as regards your preparations for the elections? I mean, for the campaigns and the current calm you have in the party.
You see, for the APC, for us, some of these things are not, theory. We are practically in it. The APC came together, it was formed in 2013 and 2014 to address most of the issues bedeviling Nigerian democracy and most of the problems faced by the other parties. Our aim was to ensure transparency and accountability in the management of parties, providing good governance, and we've stuck to that. And in the 7 years or so of our leadership, we've succeeded in ensuring that institutions of state, the levers of power, INEC, the security establishment, the judiciary, they work, in line with the constitution and in line with the powers given to them by the Nigerian constitution. In our own party, we've tried to ensure transparency. We try to ensure that we work in line with our own constitution, our own manifesto, the Nigerian constitution, as well as the electoral act. We learn from bitter experiences, how we lost Rivers, how we lost Adamawa, how we lost Zamfara. We learn from that and we try to straighten up. How we lost Bayelsa, for instance, on account of the certificate issues of the deputy governor and so on. So we are building, on our experiences. We are trying to strengthen systems. Where we are also trying to ensure that our commitment to a government or to policies that are pro-poor, in the social investment programs, pro-women, pro-youth, where we collaborated with civil society to ensure that these are not too young, to run bill is signed, and so on and so forth. So we stand for Nigerians and we stand for the weak, in the society, and we are guided by the law.
Architect Waziri Bulama, time is never enough when we're discussing politics here. In 30 seconds, please, just have your closing comment. 30 seconds, please, don't exceed it.
Well, let me think. I could even leave some change for you. Out of the 30 seconds. I just want to say that I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot. I mean, some scary, some. I'm worried for this country. I'm worried about Nigeria, and we can't afford to get it wrong this time. The whole mass of Nigerians are not really bothered about who is in the saddle so long as he can deliver the goods. And I want to tell you emphatically that moving forward, you'll see a more cohesive PDP poised to go into the election as one big family.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shaba Ibrahim, member House of Representatives and PDP candidate for local Kogi Federal Constituency. Thank you so much for your input. Good morning.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Architect Waziri Bulama is the former National Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and member of the National Advisory Council. Thank you so much for your time. Gregory Tol Nubari, Public Affairs Analyst. As usual.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I'm equally a lawyer and a chartered
Equally
accountant.
a lawyer, yes.
Chartered accountant.
Yes, a chartered accountant. And from our Ibadan studio, we had Professor Emmanuel Remi Aide, Professor of Political Institutions, Governance and Public Policy, Department of Political Science, University of Ibadan. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, the latest news on the foreign scene, here is Abdul Salam Jibrin.
Leaders of Southern African nations are meeting in Kinshasa, Congo for their 42nd summit. The leaders are expected to review the progress made towards achieving closer integration and deepening regional trade. The summit will be held under the theme Promoting Industrialization through Agro-Industry, Mineral Resource Enrichment, and Regional Value Chains for Inclusive and Resilient Economic Growth. The summit comes at a time when the host country is faced with renewed violence in its east. Some SADC member states, such as Malawi and Tanzania, are troop contributors to the United Nations Rapid Intervention Brigade under MONUSCO. At the end of the summit, Congo will take over the bloc's rotating presidency from Malawi. Russian forces have launched attacks on Ukrainian ammunition and fuel depots in multiple places. Ukrainian military officials, however, maintain that its forces successfully stopped the advance of Russian troops in Slavyansk and other directions. The Russian side said that the Ukrainian armed forces launched a large-scale artillery attack on the city of Enerhodar, where a nuclear power plant is located, and the damage to the buildings and the casualties are still under investigation.
That's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Join us again tomorrow for another edition. I am Jummai Yusuf.
And I'm Mr. Badabus one. Thank you so much. Tomorrow is another day. See you then.